All right. Okay. Facebook, War Media, friends and supporters alike. I would break out in the song. It's the most wonderful time of the year, but I don't know. It doesn't really feel like that. The only thing that we are celebrating tonight is that NBA is back in action. It is I don't know how needed it is, but it is good to see. I was just thinking a little earlier about how like the last time I really felt normal with anything, and that the last time that socializing and being out in the world felt normal, it's largely attached to the NBA. And you know, uh, I guess that Mark came from Jews. It's like, but but the last time things felt normal on a wide scale is sort of tied to the NBA back when we had the All Star game here in the city, and it was only a couple weeks after that where everything got shut down and everything has been off kilter since. The NBA has been able to finish the season. They did an amazing job down in Orlando. Now they're trying to bring some normalcy back, but they're still going to be doing things in front of in the home arenas, but with nobody there. And I think 6 or 7 arenas there will be fans, a limited number of fans, but I don't think any of the ones we have tonight will be seeing fans out there. But we will be seeing sort of 4 of the more memorable teams, the I guess 4 of the more interesting teams in the league, kicking things off. The Lakers and Clippers later on tonight, and the Nets and Warriors going to be kicking off in about 10 minutes. We're going to sort of be watching along with that game while also giving our preview, our season preview, our proper season preview here, Running with WARR. And we got a nice guest joining us, our man Chris Cason from, many bylines, GQ, and many well-respected publications. And you can listen to him on the According to Sources podcast with our guys Sean Davis and BC Brian Crawford. We'll talk about that a little bit when he comes on, but he's going to stop by. We'll see if Chris Pennant joins us. Hopefully, he may be promoting the Chase show that he's on now. Did y'all see him in the commercial? They showing the commercial. There's a quick shot of him in like a salmon sweater or something like that. We're gonna get on him about that. But that show is coming up soon. I hope if he's not on with us tonight, we'll get him on soon and try to talk about when he's going to be on that show if he knows that. But it looks like they're going to be airing that soon. But anyway, like I said, what we're doing tonight, we're just going to be chopping it up for about an hour and a half. Like I said, let's check out some of the interesting things that's going on with this first game, including James Wiseman, who's going to be making his rookie debut, and they're showing him right now on TNT. So they say he hasn't played any before tonight, like no preseason or anything. So yeah, it's gonna be definitely interesting. One of the interesting storylines there. What's up to my man Wes, my day one? Shouting out C Red, and we definitely gonna talk about the Bulls as well. But the Bulls just don't seem as interesting as a lot of other things. But they're more interesting than they've been in a couple years. So I definitely want to get some thoughts out on them. But it's NBA, man, all together, man. We having fun tonight. The games are back. There's some other stuff going on with James Harden and stuff that's going to seem to be permeating throughout the rest of the league, man. Let's just kick it off, man, with y'all before Chris comes on. Like, what are y'all thoughts about the season right now, kicking off, and what are y'all, what's on your minds primarily as this season gets going?
Well, I gotta say, you said that the Bulls don't necessarily seem as interesting as some of the other teams, but Lowry not getting an extension makes this season even more intriguing to me right now. And I think they are right to not have. I know they didn't go into it saying we're not going to give him an extension, but I feel like the fact that they weren't able to come to an agreement is good for the Bulls. Maybe good for Lowry. He has that much more to play for now. I'm glad that the Bulls didn't just throw a bag his way just because, like, let this dude prove it, because to this point, his career has inspired more questions than it has answers. So I definitely want to see if we're going to keep it on a Chicago angle. I want to see how he performs this year, if he can finally play with some consistency, how Kobe White continues to develop, obviously Patrick Williams. But I think the two lead things for the Bulls are going to be Lowry and Kobe White. And I think we've seen in the preseason that he struggled at times, speaking of Kobe White, but he also has that dog mentality that he's not just going to give up. So I think that's going to be huge too. I'm looking forward to that. In terms of the rest of the league, I mean, it's kind of just who can prove to be formidable for the Lakers, man. I'm struggling to find a number of teams that can kind of fit into that mold. I think out west, I think the Clippers, even though they lost some pieces and they still got some question marks of their own that they got to figure out, I think they probably still pose the biggest threat just because they have two guys that can defend or do their best to defend LeBron. They still, I don't know how Serge is going to do against AD, but at least they got one part of that equation somewhat covered. What you guys think?
I mean, you're talking about LeBron and AD, man. That's like that's like the top of the top. I mean, all I know is at the end of the day, in order for LeBron to win a championship, 3 out of the 4 championships he's won, he's always had a Chicago sidekick. So at the end of the day, he repping Chicago. He's helping put Chicago on the map because we put in Chicago because our talents, the D Waves and the ADs are coming through with these titles. But aside from all of that, man, what I'm looking forward to the season, I'm just glad the NBA is back. I'm glad that this go around my hair is right, my mini fro is right, so I could watch my games with my mini Fresh Prince look going on. So I'm good with that. And on top of all of that, just the fact that, like the NBA, it's fireworks everywhere. There's always something big going on every offseason for us to look forward to. Now it's really at one of its highest peaks, with all these players making all these moves. KD and Kyrie going to Brooklyn. That's a new thing that back in our younger days you want to see what that looks like on 2K. All these different moves that have been made have really contributed to that. But I'm glad I'm glad and excited about the movements that have been taking place, the new changes, like you mentioned with the Bulls. It's nice to see that there's finally change, but that change is going to be tested. And we just at this point we just got to see how things go. I'm glad the Bulls didn't extend Lowry. When AK really said this is going to be a trial year for this team, he really meant it. So prove it. That's pretty much where we are at this point. And I'm excited for Kobe White as well. I talked earlier this week on Second City Sports with Sid. Shout out to Sid and Lakina for have a great show here on WARR Media. But I recently talked to them about Bulls and Kobe White and how the dynamic duo when it comes to coaching with Kobe White, Billy Donovan, and the experience of Mo Cheeks, who are point guards, have played point guard in the league. Mo Cheek is a great Chicago legend, but at the same time, he's coached top tier talent. He's coached the Russell Westbrooks, the Chris Pauls, and things of that sort. So that way, so that extra, knowledge and wisdom of the game from a point guard position, it's going to help excel Kobe White to another level. So I'm really anxious to see how that plays out over time. And, you know, I'm just glad that to be able to watch basketball again for me, because you know me, I'm an NBA guy, so I love to watch them. So I'm glad to be able to watch basketball again. And we also got to give a shout out to the NBA for just the quick turnaround that they did to even prepare for this. They just finished the bubble less than 3 months ago, I think. So to be able to finish that and come straight to basketball, hey, you got to give them their props. And I'm excited that, you know, basketball's back on.
Definitely. Shout out to everybody who's been joining us early on. The big homie Jonathan Hood, J Hood, ESPN 1000, man. Definitely listen to him. The best morning sports show in the city, man. Him and Cap. Definitely thank you for your support, big man. And, you know, hope you can stay with us a little bit more for the next hour or so. And, yeah, just, you know, like you say, Josh, man, a lot of interesting things going on with the Bulls. Before Chris joins us, I'll give my thoughts too on the Bulls. I pretty much echo everything that y'all say. Like, you know, Laurie needs to prove himself some more. I like the whole concept of the whole team being under the scope. You know, we gotta see what's really going to make this team tick going forward, man. And you know, I said it like last week talking with Ken and some of the guys, Sean Terry, and you know, I said I wasn't worried. They thought I was saying that I wasn't worried that the Bulls were going to make the playoffs. Like I was sure that they were going to make the playoffs, but I was saying that I'm not worried if they make the playoffs or not. You know, so I'm not confident that they're going to make the playoffs. Maybe they'll be in that 10 range where they can be in the play-in. But, you know, this season is about development. And let's see how Patrick Williams plays a whole rookie season. Let's see how Kobe develops as the main guy on the ball, you know, running the offense. Let's see how you know, I think there's some stuff for Zach to prove, you know, because a lot of people are sort of resigned to saying, well, he's not a number one. He's only a number two, or maybe in a lot of cases, number three. I think he should want to play himself into the discussion as possibly being the number one this year, if he can possibly lead the team to the playoffs and make them overplay and overproduce as opposed to, you know, doing more than what people expect of this team as a whole. A lot of that's going to come if he overproduces as well. So, you know, I'm just interested to see how the guys run. I want to see how their motion offense, how they work, if they're more of a, you know, an exciting team on offense, but if they can also play themselves into keep themselves into games defensively. There's a lot that's potentially there for this team to showcase itself and really allow itself to be interesting and entertaining throughout day to day. They're not going to be embarrassing to watch anymore. I think there's not going to be like there'll be more of a pull to watch them from day to day, starting with the opener tomorrow against Atlanta. So I'm definitely excited for those games. But we got Chris Pennant here, Mr. Salmon.
See Breezy.
Wait.
Got the red on.
Kyle, last time we was here, you missed out, man. But these two dudes here, man. These two Bradley guys here.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do the show last time.
Bradley's in the field, man. Check the banner. Check the banner.
Yeah, talk to him about it.
Oh, Brad. Oh, please. Bradley running
right now.
I needed you, man.
Y'all going against Missouri. Y'all better not beat Missouri if Illinois could beat them, man, tonight.
If Bradley puts this on Missouri, boy, I will not stop talking.
I'm shouting out my Salukis too. We 7-0 Drew. Yeah. Let's represent. We beat Butler yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We undefeated. So we gonna see y'all in the conference, Bradley. We gonna see y'all. But man, we got all our guests. We got our guests coming on too, man. Let's go into full formation. Mr. Chris Cason gonna join us for about the next half hour or so. Let me see. This damn button reacts right. All right, there we go.
There we go.
Chris, long time, bro. How you doing?
Man, it's been a long time, man. How's everything going?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. How you?
Can't complain, man. Slow motion.
They better than none. Better than none.
Exactly.
But yeah, you out there though, man. Like I say, you in GQ heavy, talking to big name peoples and everything, man. You doing the show with Sean and Brian, man. We definitely love to check that out, man, according to sources, man. So, I'm glad to have you on in the mix with us to talk about the NBA. You're always one of the best to talk the league with, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we was just sort of slowly getting into things before, Chris, both of you Chris's joined us in a relatively short manner here. But I just spreading out the talk to you guys. We were sort of just really rolling into the season. What's the main things that have been interesting to us, as the season commences and everything. So let's start with our guest Chris here, man. What's been really sticking out for you, really been piquing your interest as the NBA gets ready to tip off again?
Well, the James Harden situation, just because whenever you have arguably a top 5 talent in the league and, he's disgruntled and he wants out, but he still has 2 years on his deal, that can cause like a big, I would say most of the guys on that Houston team are veterans, but, still when you have like the 1A guy who's unhappy and he doesn't want to be there, that can, especially at the beginning of the year, that can kind of derail your season before it even starts, because you got guys wondering, do I really listen to this guy if, he's got 1 foot in here and 1 foot out? You got a first-year head coach. You got probably, I think, another player on the team who is unhappy with a contract situation. So I'm looking at that situation very closely and just seeing who puts together a package, for a guy like that, and what does that team lose? I don't think he's going to end up in Brooklyn. I think he's going to end up some team that we probably didn't even really think about. I don't think it's going to be like Philly or Brooklyn at all. I think it's going to be some team that came out of the blue.
He going to get banished to Sacramento, man?
I don't think they would do him like that, but I would say my dark horse is
they gonna send him to Denver. Okay.
Yeah, my dark horse is Denver.
Yeah, I was just saying, man. It's the news coming out today. There's a couple things. He's breathing all heavy on the strippers again. No mask on. And he's throwing balls at rookies and stuff, man. I really, what do we have to say about the way that he's got to be cutting into not only his leverage but the leverage that Houston has with other teams, like Chris just said. We heard the reports about Miami wanting to step back. That may be a showy thing there where they're trying to execute some behind the scenes. You never know with Patton, but we've had other teams that are looking to step up now, and they're probably all looking to take James at a lower buy rate than they would have maybe a week or two ago. What do you guys think about that?
It's I think it's interesting because James Harden, like Chris said, and like we all know, he's arguably a top 5 talent in the league. With the league the way the rules are geared now, it's pretty much perfect for him to operate and be a consistent 28 to 30 point scorer each year in, year out, right? As he's at his peak. At the same time, teams still look at behavior closely. And, when the Rockets were at their best, which was a conference finals exit, you could look past James Harden hitting the strip clubs. We've known about that since the article dropped, how guys didn't really need like a guy to get them in places because of dating apps. Like the first paragraph was about, I'm James Harden's guy in Miami. Now, when the Rockets are they broke up the band and they're trying to get him someplace, it could be machinations by Houston to get a better deal, or it could be machinations by Harden's camp for him to stick around and I don't even know, just to lower his value for some reason. It's weird to me though, because when I was talking to a friend of mine about whether the Bulls should consider a package for Harden, I didn't think it would work for them. One, because they would have to give up too much and the team would be either the same or worse off depending on what Houston wanted in a trade, but also because I didn't think that James Harden made them a better team. I honestly don't. I don't think that if you have a team that's just under contention level, like the Bulls are, and say maybe Orlando, I might be biased because I'm not a huge fan of his game, but I don't know if James Harden makes those teams better. It's funny you say banished to Sacramento because I still think that's a team on the rise with Swiper and Buddy Hield, but I don't know if he makes them a better team.
Chris Cason, man, how many teams can we look at for him to move where he would honestly make the team that he would go to into a title contender or a title favorite?
Well, that's tough. I mean, I think if we're looking at title contenders, obviously Philly would stick out. Denver would stick out depending on what they would lose in return. But yeah, there really aren't, when we talk about contenders, there's really maybe 3 or 4 of those teams really in the league when we talk about like they're starting training camp and the talk is title expectation. The rest of those teams like making the playoffs or get into, semifinals, that's a great season for them. Like there's not like all 30 teams don't start with championship expectations. So the list of contenders is very small. And I think if you are one of those contenders, you're trying to get another team involved because you don't want to lose too much of your core, for a guy who's a high volume player. So it's going to be interesting to see like how long this can drag. I think it could drag on until March, until the trading deadline, because, Houston is just in a bad position now where like all these teams are just going to throw low ball offers, at them. I don't think any team is really, leading with, what they could lead with. I mean, and the closer it gets to the trade deadline, maybe you get somebody trying to do something, but this could be a situation that, really does play out, over the course of the season, which would be unfortunate because, you have a great young coach and Steven Silas there, and this is his welcoming, to NBA. His first go around as a head coach. This is what he has to deal with.
Yeah. So like,
Silas seems like a guy that a lot of people like, and aside you, and a lot of people like him, and he's a young black coach, which sort of tugs at our heartstrings a little bit. But I'm interested. I'll be interested to see how Houston. I liked what I saw them when they played here in town the other weekend. Seeing Wall get back into action and seeing Cousins. I think they got a lot of people are high on Christian Wood as well. They got some players, so they may be a team that I could foresee a situation where it's sort of like the last days of Anthony Davis in New Orleans, where he was sort of apart from the team, and the team was beginning to figure out themselves without him while he was still on the roster. So, I want to see how Houston reacts to this and how as well. And, will we see a lot of days where, Harden isn't playing, where he's, a DNP or something like that, or, it'll be interesting the sort of mental politics that's going to be involved with this. I just want him to stop breathing hard on strippers, without a mask.
My God.
Be safe. Be safe, man.
You shouldn't do that when it's a healthy situation.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think you be breathing too hard on
the vaccines ain't out there yet, man. Just let the ladies earn a living,
Anyway. At the same time, I mean, if he is, patronage those businesses, we got to commend him for that, man. It's tight out here for everybody, so
yeah.
We got to big up for that.
No,
it's not
like Chris Cason said,
not quite essential workers.
Like Chris said, like Chris mentioned, there's only about maybe 3 or 4 teams that have a realistic shot at contending. And then James Harden, the fact that he's such a specialized player, that doesn't make it easy either.
No.
Houston is James Harden. James Harden is Houston. Like, he can't go anywhere else and have the kind of gravitational pull that he's had where he is right now. You know what I mean? He's going to have to come in and he have to fit in. Obviously, his chances of winning a ring are going to be that much greater if he moves to a place in the East. But I just have to wonder, is his best situation still trying to play with John Wall and Boogie Cousins and a new head coach and maybe a new style that can unlock some things that weren't able to be unlocked before this season? Because like you said, Kyle,
we talk about
Wall and Boogie is good, man. I mean, if I were him, I'm surprised that he's not necessarily willing to give it a little bit more of a shot to see what happens with the new pieces that they have.
Well, I look at that situation and what I saw, and I've said this before, is what Houston went like this unconventional approach. I mean, and you got to give them credit for that. But at the same time, I always worry is the goal really a title, or was the goal really to keep James happy? Because every move that was made from the time he got there was essentially like, hey, we got our toy now. Let's keep him happy. Dwight didn't like the pairing with Dwight. Dwight's gone. You get Chris Paul there. That didn't work out. You get rid of him. Westbrook is there. It's not a fit. You get him out. I mean, they pretty much bent over backwards like every way possible an organization can, for one player. Not to say that there's other superstars that are getting preferential treatment, but I think theirs was so blatant and so obvious. And whenever that like overrides accountability, then I think that's where it's an issue. And, just looking at the way Houston played, you look at the way, his body language was when he didn't have the ball in his hands. That's coaching, but that's also like an organization thing. Like, there's nobody that, could have gone up to James and said, yo, bro, like, when I got the ball, at least make it look like, you're part of the play. Run give me a flare screen or something. Like, don't just, drift off by half court, so it's going to be interesting to see if he goes to another situation now. Same thing with Russell Westbrook. When you go to a different situation that you're no longer like the guy that the organization hovers around. How do you adjust to that? Do you adjust to that? So that's where I'm interested more. I think just with the moves Houston made this year, he didn't feel like he was included in them. You look at everything with D'Antoni, the roster moves made there, even things going into like team travel, everything revolved around him. And now when Houston pretty much put their foot down, like, all right, well, we're bringing in this coach, we're bringing in, this GM, it just looked like it rubbed him the wrong way because he wasn't used to it. He was used to having his way for like, 8 years. And now it's like, all right, well, we got to start being an organization at some point. And he looks like, nah, I'm not with this. And I think there's some other stuff that goes on behind that. I think, some of the things with the owner there, in terms of political views and things like that. I believe that has a part of a lot of things. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can jump in one, it's so wild.
Go ahead, Chris.
That the lasting image, outside of the Rockets getting booted out in the second round, the lasting image that we would have had from the playoffs is James Harden breaking his accepted persona that we all had about him and playing defense in a clutch situation and making a big defensive play. When you think about that, that would make his stock so much higher. And now we're back to Charles Barkley level James Harden in the strip club. Like it's a failure of mentality.
Well, Jimmy Butler might be a little proud because he did take a few notes himself and got himself out of Minnesota. So, Jimmy Butler might be a little proud of what James Harden is doing. I don't know if it's as far as the strippers per se, but at least the eradication of what's going on, he may be a little happy about that. But to Drew's point, aside from everything that's going on, I think two things. One, I think he does right now actually have a better fit with Houston than the roster they have now. I think if he really just tried to play it out with John Wall as well as Boogie Cousins, I think that's actually a better lineup compared to what he's had in the past. Especially when you talk about a pick and roll action where you actually now have Boogie Cousins who can pop out, shoot the three, and be more dynamic of a big man instead of having a Clint Capella who he could just throw a lob to in the post. Aside from that, I think the Milwaukee Bucks really missed out on that type of opportunity when they sold the full farm for Jrue Holiday. If they kept some of those pieces, or at least those draft picks, maybe they could have played a huge role in getting maybe James Harden to pair up with Giannis. And now those two together would have been a dynamic duo that could at least guarantee the Bucks at least pass the first round, at least back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think if the Bucks, kept what they had and didn't sell the whole farm for Jrue Holiday, even though Jrue Holiday's a hell of a player, he's not a James Harden. He's not a superstar. To get another superstar next to Giannis, especially since we pretty much know Chris Middleton is not that guy as your number 2 option on the team. I think the Bucks kind of shot themselves in the foot and not being able to get that type of opportunities to lure a James Harden in there. And quite frankly, if you're trying to sell the whole farm, the other teams are not going to be willing to do that, especially title contending teams. And his options are pretty limited. So if I was him, I'd just try to work things out in Houston. Although things ain't going the way that he might have wanted to go, that might be literally his best option at this point.
Yeah, that's why it gives credence to the idea that this was just at the beginning of this process. Like it's probably gonna go deeper into the season than than we may have even expected at a certain point. But I want to talk about. Because we got the game on now. I don't know how many of y'all got the game on, but a lot of this started with Harden apparently wanting to force a trade to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn right now is looking like we good. They trying to jump out pretty early here, and they got a nice lead on Golden State. And of course, Golden State isn't the same team that we've seen. That they're not the dynasty team anymore. They've gone through their process, and they have some of their guys back. Of course, the devastating injury with Thompson and everything has held them back. But
Sorry,
they got Oubre in there. So they got some talent, but Brooklyn. We'll see how the rest of this game goes. But I think a lot of people are expecting some things of Brooklyn, whether they are a finished team or not. What are y'all thoughts overall on what's happened in Brooklyn and what's possible for that team going forward? Chris Cason, let's start it off, man.
Oh, I think their mindset now is championship. When you look at you got two champs. You got 2 champs there already. You got a deep team. The way they look so far in the preseason, I watched, I believe, 2 of their games, looked impressive. KD looked like KD, I mean, if he's healthy or even 90% of, what we know him to be, he's the best player in the Eastern Conference by far. There's just nobody that can mess with him. Health is going to be a big part, especially with Kyrie. Kyrie's just over the last, man, I would say his career, he always has had that like a fluke injury. It'll be like something just weird, just comes out at the worst times. But yeah, I mean, you look at depth, you got Karis LeVert there, Joe Harris just re-up. You got depth with DeAndre Jordan backing up the big kid, I forgot his name. But yeah, I mean, when you look at
Jared Allen.
Yeah, from top to bottom, they're just, I mean, they almost essentially a complete team. And I think one reason, if you're Brooklyn, you don't want to bring a guy like James in. It's like we've already had like a shortened training camp. I mean, we've kind of established a tempo we want to play at. Now you got to bring another guy in here who needs the ball, needs to be brought up to speed, and that kind of changes, the flow of things. Like, because are you playing Kyrie off the ball now? That takes away touches from Kevin Durant. Takes away, I mean, well, Karis LeVert obviously wouldn't be there, but I mean, I think Brooklyn, if all goes well, like they should be right there at the end, like in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Are they already a better looking team or more, a more, would you consider them a better contender already than, say, a Milwaukee?
That's a good question. I would say so, just because you look at what Milwaukee's issue has been is because you really don't have a closer, like a guy at the last two or 3 minutes, like where it's one-on-one now. The game is slowed down to a crawl. Who's going to go get you a shot? Brooklyn has 2 of those guys. 3 of those guys, if you count Karis LeVert too, because he's like not shy at all when the game gets down on the line. I don't think a lot of people have gotten a chance to see him play. But yeah, you look at Milwaukee, one thing that I'm looking at this year is the adjustments they make throughout the season. Because, I mean, the last 2 seasons, they've ran away with the Eastern Conference, essentially playing the same way. They were blowing teams out. But when it gets to the playoffs and things slow down, we know how to game plan for you. We're going to build a wall around Giannis, and now these other guys, we're going to close out on your shooters. Now who's going to be able to put the ball on the floor and make a play? So Drew helps that, but what's going to help Milwaukee is just like making adjustments during the playoffs, because that's all the playoffs are about. You can't bow out the way they have, the last 2 years, especially with that record during the regular season. So I think Drew takes a ton of pressure off of Giannis, but in terms of contending right now, I would say Brooklyn is the strongest, just because you have 2 guys that you can go to at the end of the game, and there's literally nothing an opposing a defensive player can do against any one of them. Your best bet is just trying to make their shot as hard as possible.
The intrigue is ramped up in the East. You got, Miami, of course, is emboldened after their bubble run. You still got teams like Boston and Philly who want to be heard. Even a team like Toronto, and that top 4 is going to be. There's probably about 6 teams that want to lay claim to that top 4 spots, but a couple of them gonna have to be bounced back to the latter half. And Drew, you got something you want to jump in, man? What do you think about the landscape of the East right now?
Like you said, man, that top half of that East is looking very competitive, man. Brooklyn, I would say, because of what Chris Cason just said, having 2 number 1 guys, man, that puts them ahead of the game in the Eastern Conference. For all the moves that Milwaukee was able to make, Giannis still doesn't have a number 2 guy. He's got 2 number 3s, if you ask me. I've been saying it since they got Drew Holiday. Him and Chris Middleton are nice 3s, but who's your number 2 guy? If you want to take it a step further, like Chris said, Giannis hasn't proven able to be dependent upon to take those clutch shots, man, because he just struggles to hit them. I'm still looking at Miami. I've seen a lot of a lot of power rankings where Miami kind of slipped down a little bit, and I'm confused by that. I guess people really aren't believing in the bubble performance that they had. I think Toronto takes a step back. I want to see how Philly does now, getting Seth Curry in the mix. Tyrese Maxey looks really good. Looks like he might be the steal of the draft. You got a healthy Ben Simmons now. It looks like a motivated Joel Embiid that we really haven't seen much of since he's coming to the league, and we can see what Doc Rivers can do with that. But I think if I had to, I think if I'm picking today, I'll probably say I want to see Miami and Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals. I like the Celtics, but it's just something about the Celtics I can't go all in on yet. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
feel free and guys jump in.
Yeah. Drew brought up some good points, and Chris Cason did as well. I think for me, though, the biggest thing that that I'm going to be paying attention to is like the bottom half of the East, because some of those bottom half teams really did make some good offseason moves, especially when you're talking about Atlanta getting Bogdanovich and Rajon Rondo and other good players to beef up their young roster. Which pairing that with Trae Young and at least the stats that he put up this past year, you're looking at an Atlanta team that could really jump into that playoff role, especially with the expanded play-in tournament. They could be in the playoffs next year. So I think the bottom half is going to be more intriguing with teams that went along that made moves. Even though Washington and the Wizards, they traded John Wall, they got Russell Westbrook. That's a whole different animal when you're talking about comparing him to Bradley Beal in that backcourt. So these teams, they beefed up the roster just like everybody else. And it's just, I think that bottom half of the East is going to be very intriguing to pay attention to, especially when you're talking about the expansion of the play-in tournament.
Yeah, that's a good point, Josh, because I think it's still kind of a top-heavy conference. Just looking at what the Nets did on the whole, they still have their pieces that had everybody really singing their praises from a couple years ago. Karis LeVert, who made his laudable comeback. Joe Harris, who is the sabermetrics darling, and Jared Allen, who's the same way. And then that's not I'm not a huge stats guy, but that's not to diminish what Joe Harris does. He's the lights-out three-point shooter. Who came up when the Nets were unassuming and has stayed on the Nets for a reason when they acquired these pieces. They kept him around for a reason. So they've kept a lot of their backbone and then got their bright lights to make themselves a top quality finals contender in the East. And so then after that, you have Milwaukee, who still after 4 years of Giannis has to prove themselves, which is very disconcerting. And then Philadelphia, Toronto, Boston, Miami. I think with the expanded tournament, you're going to see. I wouldn't be surprised with Rondo and with Trae Young, who's he's not the deadliest guy in the league yet, but I feel like he has enough of that kind of Steph Curry IQ to take himself to the next level without needing a challenge. Like he's got enough challenging himself to be able to take the next steps and be able to be like he can throw up those 45-point games and just take over a game by himself. So I would be surprised if Atlanta doesn't start off. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta starts off hot and carries that for a while before maybe they slow down. But if they get to like the number 6 spot in the conference, I wouldn't be surprised at that rather than fighting for those last 1 or 2 slots. And then, it's kind of where you go from there. Charlotte, Detroit, Indiana, if they can get over injury woes, where do they fall? But in terms of who's better, it's so wild and disappointing to me that I got to think of Milwaukee still needing to prove themselves because they screwed up that Bogdanovich deal. They've been the same way, exactly like Chris said, exactly like we all know. If you can have somebody stick Giannis by the 3-point line and keep a body on him and force 4 of the guys to make a shot, you have a good chance of beating them if it comes down to that. Brooklyn, who are you going to put on Kyrie? Who are you going to put on KD? Who are you going to put on Karis LeVert? And then you got to leave Joe Harris open, who can hit a 3 from just about anywhere. That in my mind alone makes, if you give me the Nets and the Bucks in the 7-game series, it's Brooklyn in 5.
Chris,
not to mention Midwitty too.
How much longer you got, Case?
I got 10 minutes. I'm good.
How much longer you got, Case? Okay. Well, let's transition a little bit and get into, one of the big storylines leading up to like last week or so was Giannis and his contract situation. He goes and reads up. So for the record was a 225 or something like that. But he's got the highest contract in the league now.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
whole lot.
Yeah, a whole lot of bag, big old bag. But he's rooting himself in Milwaukee. Do you think that was the most prudent decision for him? Or are you wondering, or are you thinking that he should have maybe waited out this year and let or try to a 1+1 or some other type of situation that would have allowed him more opportunity to be flexible in the near future?
The one thing I love about Giannis is how different he is from, like, I would say, the American quote unquote superstar. I mean, when you look at the humble beginnings, I mean, here's a guy who's him and his brother were outside, selling trinkets, just so their family could have money to eat. I mean, when you come from a background like that, his whole worldview is completely different. So of course I don't know him, but just everything that went through his head before like deciding to sign this. The money is always going to be there for a player like that, but I think everything in his head went back into, this is an organization that believed in me. I've grown up here. I've learned how to drive here. They've embraced my family. And he's just looking at that community as, raising his family and everything. And the organization, I mean, when you look at the moves and what they've built up from the time he built up, that gives him confidence to sign that extension. And I think with a guy like Giannis, he's not the recruiting type. He's not the guy that you'll see, going to open gyms during the summer and hanging out with guys. But I do think he's a guy that a lot of players like in the future will want to play with, just because it looks like the main thing about him is winning. Like, you're not seeing Giannis on, league fits or anything. He's not trying to get a fit off for the gram. Giannis is everything that you see about him is family. And, he just wants to be the best player possibly. And if you're another superstar, if you're another great player, you look at that because you're just like, man, well, I can slide right in there and I can make this easier for him, as opposed to like having to fight with him about certain things. Giannis is all about winning. So I think it was obviously the best decision for him. I don't think it'll be a situation where 3 years down the line, he'll have any regrets on signing a deal like that. But yeah, I think it was the smartest decision. And just as for the league as a whole, I mean, when you got a guy that roots himself in a small market like that, is very rare. Especially nowadays, a lot of guys will sign a 2 or 3 year deal with a player option for that last deal. But to give a full like 5 years while you're in your prime, I mean, that's a testament to who he is, and just a testament to like how great the relation is between him and that organization.
Josh, I know you were high on the deal. What are your thoughts on Giannis staying put and sticking it out with Milwaukee? Do you think they're going to be able to pay it off for him as soon as this year?
No, I don't think the Bucks are going to pay it off as soon as this year. I actually wish Giannis didn't sign the deal. I wish he would have just waited out, finished out the season, and then entered free agency and just see what other options are out there, especially from a winning perspective, because with the way the Bucks are currently shaped, especially with the off-season moves of trading their whole farm for Jrue Holiday, that's not going to be enough to get them over the hump, especially in the Eastern Conference, where a lot of the top-heavy teams in the Eastern Conference really beefed up their rosters and superstar talent to get themselves into the finals. So I don't think the Bucks have enough and will have enough for a nice little minute to get Giannis over the hump. But but like Chris Cason said, it's a huge win for the league, especially from a small market perspective, to show that, they can keep top tier talent and still, remain relevant. Giannis does come off as someone that's not really, even though he's about winning, he respects the Bucks. He respects the loyalty that that they gave him. This is his first real home outside of the country, and they embraced him. And from what I've told and heard from Eric Woodyard, who stopped on my Endoscope show to talk about this, he talked about how, he really views Wisconsin and Milwaukee as a place where he can raise his family, where he can, where there's an actual future, not just for him, but his brothers and sisters, his family that he's taking care of, his sons. He wants to have more kids, and he said he wants to have them grow up in Milwaukee. So I think there was more of an interpersonal role that played a huge effect in the signing of this deal. But from a basketball perspective, I wish he would have held off on that, because I don't think the Bucks is this place for him to ultimately win and have the best chances of winning. I think if he waited another year, he could have went somewhere else, and at least with a better coach or a better roster that can really get him to the titles that he's really trying to seek after.
I'm of the thinking that I just don't. I definitely want players to exercise their mobility and their ownership, their self ownership, their authorship as athletes, and as whatever they want to be, athletes, brands, whatever. But I do think that at the same time, we've sort of gotten used to players of Giannis's caliber going about things a certain way in the post LeBron decision era. So for me, I'm a little bit on the more, I'm glad that he did what he did, and he exercised his own thinking, and he didn't just be like, well, I got to do this because this is how a player of my stature does these things. I gotta see how things are going to be on the open market for me, or I'm going to feel like I'm losing something, or I got to feel like I got to start these machinations where I got to try to team up with one or two other guys, because otherwise I'm not going to win the title. I think he's fully confident in his ability to continue to mature as a player, and to bring about everything that he needs to bring within himself, along with the team that he has in Milwaukee, to bring that market, his first title since Lou Alcindor. And that's just one thing I said on Twitter, like that'll be a shade under, if he's able to do that, that'll be a shade under what LeBron did with Cleveland. So that's one of the stories that I'm rooting for within these next 5 years of this contract, if he plays it out. And I want to see that happen. Like Josh said, probably won't happen this year, but you got to set roots down at some point. You got to stand your ground, like you're taking a charge. You got to set your feet down and put make space for yourself, and that's what John has done with this decision, and I'm honoring him for it. Like I say, hopefully the Bucks don't make him look bad, and they do everything that they can to make him a champion eventually. At the same time, he has to do a lot as well. He has to make more of himself as well. And that's what I think, that's what makes the difference between real franchise guys, real champions, and guys who just are fad hoppers and guys who just don't jump on trends and stuff like that,
Yeah, you know who changed my perspective on loyalty was Kevin Garnett, man, in Minnesota. Like watching him give his blood, sweat, and tears for so long to an organization that didn't always put the best pieces around him. I was happy to see him leave. I just wish, and I know he got a championship, but I wish, the better part of his days in Minnesota would have been spent playing for an actual, playing for a championship, not just that 1 year where he had Spree by his side and Sam Cassell. But he changed my whole outlook on a player's loyalty to their franchise, where nowadays it's not even really – it's cool if it happens, but I guess it's unexpected, especially for the small market guys, small market teams.
Yeah, you got to look at the franchises and the way that they're moving. I think when you look back at that Minnesota, the way Minnesota was being ran at that time, it wasn't being ran to their maximum capacity. I think Milwaukee at this point right now, you can't really, aside from a couple little mistakes that they may have made in this offseason, they still were able to at least get Drew Holiday into the fold. They still were able to be proactive in some way. And I think we look at the bigger bigger view of what they've done since, like Chris said, since he's touched down as the 14th pick, several years ago, they built up the worth of that franchise overall with him as the centerpiece.
Oh, yeah.
That new stadium up there, that's the stadium that Giannis built essentially, and they got up to date features and everything in there. The practice facilities up.
Chris, around that area,
they got it set up well.
It's crazy. Yeah, I remember going to the old Bradley Center, like during my time covering the Bulls, and it's like an old college stadium. But now going there, like that entire area is just, I call it the Giannis effect. Like if he would have left at all, like I don't think any of those businesses around that new stadium flourished at all. But now with that guy being around there, like that's an attraction. That's a tourist destination now in Milwaukee, of all places. Not saying anything bad about Milwaukee, but I mean, it's crazy. Just when we talk about the last 5 years, I remember going to Milwaukee games and you see nothing but Bulls jerseys, and now it's different. It's completely different. You look at the franchises and what they've been able to do the last 5 years. You would have never thought that Milwaukee would be up here and Chicago would be down here trying to climb itself back up. But yeah, it's crazy just the effect that a superstar player can have.
It's weird to me because knowing Wisconsinites, as I got to with my friend going to Madison for school, and even just the little things you see, like Red Foreman on that '70s show. The Bucks are Wisconsin's team, but not nearly as much as the Packers are.
Right.
Even like I know a dude who went to Wisconsin. He was from La Crosse. Good dude, kind of like lean Republican, but he would rather have had a hockey team, honestly, I think, than the Bucks. And he's a sports fan, not just a football hockey fan. He's a sports fan. So Milwaukee, the city, is different from the rest of the state, but they've had at least 3 all-time NBA players in their history, and probably more if Sid Moncrief doesn't get hurt. And I don't want to dispute you, Chris, on what the effect would have been. I think if he left, I don't know if it would have been as drastic as we think. If Giannis leaves, I'm proud of him for staying because of his history and the fact that he was that poor kid in Greece who, like, the people around there weren't even trying to mess with him, and he got on basketball, and then all of a sudden it's like, yo, Giannis is Greek before he was Nigerian. I don't know. I don't know how much Wisconsin loves the Bucks, even though you never hear about them getting possibly sold. It feels like they want to keep them, but they don't love them like that. Now, this is the thing. The Bucks need to figure out what they need to do to win a championship, because that's what keeps people there. That's what's going to keep people coming. That's what's going to keep that area hopping. That's what's going to keep the Bucks in people's mouths as more than just the team that Sid Moncrief played for and Junior Bridgman played for and Kareem and Oscar played for. They got to win a championship.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, Chris, we're going to send Cason off, man. But first, thanks for coming on with us, man. We appreciate it.
No, thank y'all.
And we definitely got to have you back on for a longer time. As the season goes forward, man.
Yeah, definitely.
But Yeah. Yeah. Before we let you go, man, just shout out what you got going on. If you want to plug the according to sources or whatever, man, just let us know what's up with you.
Yeah, definitely. Follow us at According to Sources, like the A2S podcast, me, my guy Sean Davis, Brian Crawford. As far as personal work, I don't have anything coming out. As far as I'm kind of laying low for the rest of the year, trying to make it to 2021. Other than that, man, just like I said, just trying to lay low in the year on the bang, man. Stay healthy, stay protected, keep my family protected. But yeah, follow us, According to Sources podcast. We just dropped one yesterday. Probably drop another one in about 2 weeks. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's all I got going on right now.
No doubt, man. Best, wishing the best to you, man, and like I said, all your fam, and know you're gonna do a lot of big things in 2021. So we look forward to seeing what you got, man, and we'll definitely get you back on the show soon as we can.
Definitely appreciate y'all, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night.
You too, man.
You too, Chris.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, you too, bro. Well, let me dip right back before we move on about the Milwaukee stuff. Like I worked up in Wisconsin for several years, and it's basically to what you said, Chris. Like it's basically the same as with most other fan bases. You got to win, and you got to energize the fan base and the populace in some way that. We look at a couple years ago. I got on Inside the NBA just by saying that it was lit up there. Because they was, that game one when they played Toronto and they beat them up there. They had the whole setup around the arena where, it was packed up there and everybody was yelling and they was in the streets and they was like, oh, this is our time. And, they got shut down the rest of that series and it didn't happen. So that's led to them being at this sort of crossroads point. But when you look at, I just keep thinking of that night and how it was sort of like a fever pitch. And that's what you can get in Wisconsin because they ain't got too much up there. When they got something they could get a hold of, be it the Packers, be it, University of Wisconsin, be it, whatever, saying something hockey related. They love to have a hockey team up there, but they don't. And, the Bucks, if they win enough, they will fill in that winter hole for them as a professional team. So, that's another reason why I root for them. Because like I said, I've been up there. I know when they do have a lot of love for basketball players up there, they seem to produce a white boy every year or so that plays like at Carolina or somewhere else, like a Tyler Hero or something, that plays out. They got a couple kids now, the Hausers. I used to work in the my main school that I covered up there was the school that they came out of. I didn't cover them, but it was Stevens Point, and they're playing now. We got one at Michigan State and one at Virginia. So that's a state that likes they love basketball and they produce a lot of talented players. So, like I said, in the end, when it comes to the Bucks, they had such a long time where they were off and on, in the 70s, they had Lou and they had Oscar Robertson. And in the 80s, they got on a bit, but the East was just too crowded at that time for them to break through.
Too nice.
The 90s was just, 90s, there was just a lot of nothing, but then they built up that team in 01 that almost got through. And then there's been a lot of nothing since then. You had Brandon Jennings for a year or two, and then Giannis. So they gotta be trained a little bit to be able to deal with success. But the fact that Giannis is there for the next 5 years, potentially that's going to say a lot about his legacy and this particular era of Bucks basketball. And I'm like I said, I'm rooting for him. I want to see a title get won up there.
Yeah,
but
it'd be a good story. I just don't know. Now I was gonna say it'd be a good story for sure, man. I just now that KD and Kyrie are healthy, I don't know, man.
Right, you know, Brooklyn don't care nothing about that, and they got their team right, and the way they're looking tonight, man.
And not, you know, not even just Brooklyn. I mean, you got Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are not gonna get any worse. You know, like Ben Simmons and Embiid, you know, if they keep playing together, they don't split them up. They're not gonna get any worse. I don't know.
Yeah, the East. There's a lot of talent in the East, man. You know, I'm interested to see how it plays out. You could, and like Josh said, even with the lower teams, like you may have a team that skips up a spot or two, like in Atlanta. You know, I wouldn't necessarily expect this from Charlotte, but they're going to be pretty interesting to watch. You're going to have you know, the ball throwing the ball everywhere. You know, all sorts of ways and everything.
And don't you know about the Pacers. I mean, they're not winning any championships, but they got a nice little team that's good enough to at least get to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like Sabonis was hurt.
They could threaten that
player, man. Like when everybody is healthy, the Michael Jordan of the bubble, Mr. T.J. Warren, is probably like their fourth best player. You know what I'm saying? So that's saying something for them.
And we got Michael Jordan of the bubble. Yeah, that's what was that O'Connell called him that? Did Ricky call him that for yeah. For he had a week or so where he was like Mike up in there.
Man, that dude was playing.
Couldn't be stopped, dude. Indiana's got that same. Indiana will never let go of their basketball, but they got that same kind of Milwaukee curse where they can't quite get around the teams that are better when they're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And right now, they just keep getting horrible injury luck.
Yeah.
There was somebody that was talking. I don't know if it was Harden, but it was somebody that was talking about like. Still some trade talk with them for a while, but I don't know. They may need some type of major shaking up. Who?
You talking about Victor Oladipo?
Yeah, like Oladipo, like moving him for. I forgot who they would move him for. I forgot who the talk was about, but I don't know.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying they shouldn't do that.
It's not likely they're gonna get fair trade on that, but we'll see how they play too. I mean, it's since I'm sort of pulling us back to the Bulls for a second before we go out west, but we got, like I say, there's space to move around in the East potentially. Maybe not in that top four, but from 6, you got a 6 to 10 range now. With the play-in, what do we think overall about this play-in stuff? Like, I guess it's going to engender more energy from more fan bases. Like, if we had the 6 to 10 last year, if we had the 10, we would have been in there. The Bulls would have been in there. So it would have been. But at the same time, though, maybe does that lead to Jim Boyler keeping his job? That's the type of thing you kind of got to worry about if you're in that range of basketball hell, I don't know. What y'all thoughts on that?
I don't know about y'all. At least on the Eastern Conference side of things, like the play-in game just seems like how the play-in game for the NCAA tournament. Like it's just setting up who's gonna get the ass whooped first. That's all. Like, in the West, it seems like a way to try to make sure that Ja or Zion sneaks into the playoffs so they can get some. Get some more pub, get some more money, get some more dollars. But yeah, in the East, it just seems like, you playing in to be the first team to get out. You know what I'm saying?
I want to hear what Josh has to say. He's doing the evil genius stroke.
Yeah, he been stroking that beard for a couple minutes there.
Hey man, it's getting long, man. That's like a growing.
Yeah, you know what it is when it comes to playing with Smooth over here, man. But let's be the playing tournament for me. I never thought I'd be so thankful for an AAU style type of concept to be played in the NBA because of the Bulls. It's because of this concept they have saved the Bulls' lives. I'm so thankful. Thank you, NBA, for allowing this to happen the year after we finally get some change. Thank you. Thank you, NBA. But the overall concept, I'm with Drew, man. If you're in the Eastern Conference, it's like which asshole when you want first. It doesn't matter which one. Like, you're gonna get spanked either way. But in the West, I think because of the Drew's point, it actually opens up the conversation of why you need to eliminate maybe the East and West and just do the best top 16. Because of the fact that you do a play-in tournament for the West, that makes more logical sense. You got Zion, you have more power over there. You got Zion, you got Ja, you got the Suns that'll be coming up now. You got Chris Paul and with Devin Booker over there. So you have more intriguing teams that can bring you money and still keep things very competitive. Where in the Eastern Conference, outside of maybe Atlanta that can maybe fill in that type of role where they move up, you're screwed with Orlando Magic, Detroit, the horrible Knicks, the Wizards,
Detroit,
us, Detroit. Motor City is literally motoring itself down to like the wrong way, the expressway. Like all these franchises that are so bad, including us at this moment. It's like do you really want to watch that? Do you really think they deserve to be in that? No, they don't. So it's like it's a good option to start with, but it really brings more light to the table as far as the reality of the NBA, which is we may have to really start thinking about eliminating the East versus West concept when it comes to playoffs and getting the top 16 best teams and create it and just do a tournament that way. So that way you actually get the best of the best in every matchup that you watch, instead of watching on one side half a good competition and other straight ass whoopings, where the other ones in the West, where it's actually competitive from the top to the bottom.
I agree, man.
Regular Chris got to sign off now, so we'll leave the floor to him for one last time.
It's hard to disagree with Josh. I mean, the NBA need to reseed. They've needed to reseed in the playoffs for a while now. I think that they could eliminate conferences, if only, I know they won't do it because they have 30 plus teams, and the WNBA only did it because they still have 12 teams. When they expand, I think they go right back to the conference model that they have. The play-in tournament is going to be fun for us. As everything, it'll regress to some point where you'll need to change it too. But at least you'll get to see teams that didn't quite make it, like how Josh said, Ja Morant didn't get in the playoffs last year because Memphis just ran out of gas, and the Pelicans didn't have it, even though they were invited down to the bubble too. So you'll get some of those lower seeded teams get into the playoffs a little bit before their time. On the other hand, it might convince owners that they're going to get playoff revenue, and that's good enough. And because I'm always suspicious of owners who just make money and don't want to make the team better. You see it happen with every team, every owner. At some point, they feel like, oh, we're spending too much money. Let's lay back a little bit. That's why the Red Sox sold Mookie Betts off, and they're going to kind of lay back in the cut for a while, which that's Boston doing that. So you think about that going to a small market team in the NBA where the franchises aren't worth nearly as much. I don't know if it's going to benefit some teams and their fans in the long run. It'll be fun to watch, but some of those teams who stay in that level of mediocrity are going to kind of be stuck in that level of mediocrity for longer. Hopefully not, but I could see it happening.
It's going to benefit the league. The league going to get its cut. The house gets its cut before anything. Mm-hmm. And they're going to get it through more television money or whatever, or branding or whatever. Hennessy will probably be a part of the playing games or something,
Tanqueray.
Some sort of liquor brand or something, get your last call.
You want expansion?
Well, I'll go. I was gonna bring that up. That has come up. That I think Silva's been quoted this week as how Silva is. He gets he gets sort of coy about things, but he was like, they're open to expansion and whatever, and we'll talk about that's something we'll bring up on some future shows. But of course, I think Seattle is probably a spot where a lot of people want to see the league get back into, and you probably got to think of another city. I saw someone on Twitter mention Virginia, which was kind of interesting to me because Virginia does have they do have a pro basketball history, the Squires back in the ABA. So I don't know if that'd be too close to DC though. They may get they filth rubbed off on
territorial rights.
But yeah, we'll talk more about that stuff going forward though. But Chris, man, we gotta talk next time you on. We gotta talk about the chase too, man. Because I told the guy, I think I saw you in a commercial.
Yeah, we're still keeping some things under wraps, but we can discuss that when next time around. Yeah.
All right, we'll be back on after the new year, so we'll probably be closer to the airing. You give us a little something about that. So, but sure, yeah, thanks for hopping on, man. Appreciate it. And have a good holiday, brother, and we'll see you in 2021.
Always good chopping it up with y'all boys. Be easy.
Yes, sir.
I see Breezy.
We'll go for about another 25 here, about the bottom of the hour. They about to go into halftime in Brooklyn. What do you before we go into the West stuff? What do y'all think about Brooklyn again? For what you've seen tonight from them?
I mean, I really just been kind of glancing at the game and kind of looking back at you guys. They're gonna be all right. They're gonna be fine. They're playing the Warriors, so it's not a whole lot that I can take from this game and equate it to the best of the best in the NBA. But they're gonna be right there, as Cason said, as we all know. They got two of the premier players in the NBA. A lot of guys had KD as being the best player in the NBA when healthy. So, it should be championship for bust for them. I don't know if they can beat the Lakers, but it should be that should be their mentality right now, even with a first-year head coach and Steve Nash and everything that comes with that and everything that comes with Kyrie Irving off the court or, just the shenanigans that he brings. But they got KD and Kyrie, so you don't need a whole bunch else, man.
Yeah,
is that still a comeback player of the year award?
I think, yeah.
I don't think so.
No, they took that.
Yeah, I think they took that comeback player. Yeah, they're just most improved.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying they may have to bring the comeback player for KD because he look like he just took a couple months off or something. He don't look like he been through anything, man. He's just coming right back at it, man.
Yeah, I mean,
they may need to bring it back for Kyrie too, because Kyrie looked like if Kyrie goes this whole season without a mental breakdown, I think he should be in the running for a comeback player of the year.
Why not? Why not, man? Why not?
I mean, you never know. He might sage the whole scenario. He may sage just the ambiance of when he gets that trophy too. He'll make sure that there's no bad spirits around when he collects that trophy. But
that might be what he needs. He probably finally got the right smell that he wants from. He probably got some. He probably went to the downtown Brooklyn somewhere, got some African to hook him up with the right sage and. Right. He's probably really centered right now, spiritually. So, but hopefully he'll keep that up. But go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Just looking at it, I think it's halftime right now. Kyrie got 24, KD got 12. They're up by 20. This is like an AAU circuit. Like I feel like I'm watching the best team of the whole AAU of the country running back against. Against a known brand, but they're not that good this year. It's like That's what I feel like I'm watching. And, you can tell this is definitely like the early like Amari Stoudemire, Steve Nash, Phoenix Suns days where everything was gone 6 seconds or less. Just pull the trigger. And it makes things super exciting for them, especially with, half of that team there, with Amari being on the bench. You got Steve Nash, your first coach, Mike D'Antoni as one of your top assistants, who was the coach of that team at the time. I mean, Brooklyn's going to be exciting to watch regardless. There's always going to be fun entertainment. And I think the biggest component about this is what I know for sure, Kyle, we've talked about previously, is the impact now of having the B team accelerate in the A market. Because we know, when you think about New York, you're thinking Madison Square Garden, you're thinking the Knicks. Now you got the Nets in Brooklyn that's right across the street, and they doing it big, which is something that the Knicks are still trying to get back to. For this generation, they viewed this like how we viewed the Knicks back in the early 80s and 90s. Like they're viewing the Brooklyn Nets this year for this generation as that Knicks team. Like this is their form. When they say New York, they're thinking Brooklyn. So for that B team per se that we grew up on to become the to take over sort of that A team momentum in the A market like New York, I think that's one of the biggest components that makes this thing really that much more exciting.
Well, when you talk about that A B team dynamic, and you got to remember the other side we were talking about, from a year or so ago too. We was talking about LA, and over the past years plus now, the Clippers have learned how difficult it is to overtake an established team in the market. And, the Lakers swatted that. Well, they played their role in SWAT. They didn't get to play them directly. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that in the bubble. But, the Clippers more or less self-destructed. But again, when you talk about a franchise like the Clippers that's been so synonymous with, ugliness and bad play throughout its history, it's sort of like a Cub curse breaking type thing that you got to have with them, where they got you can't believe that they're actually going to win it all until they actually win it all, and that's what the position they're in right now. They gotta show and prove, and after the bubble, what happened in the bubble, they're in that position as much as they've ever been. And and we look at the second half of the doubleheader today is going to be those two teams. What are y'all thoughts? Your first thoughts on the Battle of LA again, and how it's going to size up this year? Like last year, you had a lot of goodwill for the Clippers starting the season, and they came out in those early games against the Lakers, if you remember. And they outplayed the Lakers. They outplayed the Lakers on the first opening night last year, and another game or two they did in the regular season. But it didn't mean much once they got to the bubble. So what do y'all think about that dynamic with these two teams and how it's going to play out this year?
I think those are still the two best teams in the West. Whereas last year, I was picking the Clippers to beat the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, before all hell broke loose. This year, it's the other way around. Haven't seen a full year with AD and LeBron playing together, and seeing AD step up in those big clutch moments that we weren't able to see him perform in with New Orleans. I've got them coming out of the West now. Although I think we see a better Paul George this year. I think getting married, getting his contract done, maybe that'll settle him down. Maybe he's more focused this year. All that locker room turmoil that was going on, hopefully all that is done, and that won't factor into their play this year. And I think we see a more cohesive unit. At least I'm hoping for it. Because I do want to see these two teams square off when it matters the most. But I still think just, you know, if LeBron is not going to be too much, AD will be for the Clippers and their biggest offseason acquisition, which was Serge Ibaka.
And it's hard to argue against the Lakers not being a better team right now. The one thing that I hold off on is that we've seen situations where teams have seemingly got better over the offseason, but somehow in some way the mix just doesn't work when it goes out on the court and something happens, you know, injuries or egos getting in the way and stuff like that. I think probably the best example of that would be the 04 Lakers when they brought in Malone and Payton. And everybody was like, oh, they're gonna win another championship easy. But by the end of the year, Detroit was just making them look like fools in their finals. So, you know, nothing's promised in the NBA. But at the same time, the Lakers did get talent that is really, you know, you could say boosted them up a little bit. Not only the talent that they brought in, but the guys that they compared to the guys that they let go, like Howard and you know, a couple other guys. You know, it's hard not to say that on paper they're better right now. But you know, Josh, what do you think about how the Lakers size up overall compared to, you know, the team that just won the title?
Yeah, the Lakers got more versatile on both ends of the floor, off and more depth on the bench. I think one of the biggest offseason acquisitions that they got was getting Dennis Schroeder really changed the narrative of the Lakers. Just because of the fact that he brings that extra grit. He's pretty much to me he's like a younger Rondo with a better jump shot. When you talk about from his defensive grit that he has, his versatility and ability to score the ball and play off the ball, which is going to be huge since LeBron is the guy that does need to have the ball in his hands. I think that's a good pickup for the Lakers that didn't get quite enough buzz as you would think from any other team that was able to make that type of move. I thought it was just straight gangster how they just went across the locker room and said, Trez, come here. Straight gangster with that. But you know, getting guys like Marc Gasol, who's nowhere near athletic like Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, but has the IQ and the ability to still rebound the ball, but also be able to stretch the floor. I think that's going to be huge in a more improved Laker offense with LeBron. And, you know, bolstering up that bench the way that they did, you can't, you know, they just showed that at the end of the day, there may be two kings in LA, but there's only one true king, and that's the Lakers. That's what they did this offseason. The Clippers, they made some decent moves, but at the same time, I want to see how Ty Lue changes the actual offensive playbook when it comes to utilizing Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I know there's been reported recently how they actually put Kawhi Leonard in triangle positions, and a little bit of that triangle offense sequence, so that way they give him the ball in the right spots for him, so that way he can facilitate and work, like the MJs did and like Kobe did. Because remember, Ty Lue was part of that offense with Kobe back in the early thousands when he won the title with them. So he knew. So to put all that together, I want to see how offensively the adjustments that they make, especially for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, see how that works for them, as well as the fact that I'm actually hoping that one of the reasons why they brought Serge Ibaka in was to actually be a leader. They don't have a vocal leader. They don't have someone that can give direction or be that one guy that, you know, at the end of the day, when the locker room is chaotic, you can rely on and trust to get the team back together. They don't have that leadership component. And normally you would get that from either your best player or like your floor general, point guard per se, but you don't have any of that. So I wonder where that's going to come from. And without that, especially you're talking about a franchise that's right across the street from you that prides itself in legacy, leadership, winning culture, and doing things the right way. That's something, you know, that's gonna be tough for the Clippers to overcome and deal with if you ain't got what it takes to really get there. And like Drew said, top two in the West for sure. Both of those teams will be there. But at this point, LeBron's gonna be still wearing that crown, and because if all else fails, LA, the Clippers need to go get a Chicago kid like the LA, the Clippers got to go to get Chicago kid like the Lakers did by getting Anthony Davis and the emergence of Taylor Horton Tucker. That's it.
Yeah,
it's a wrap.
Taylor's been a great story, man. And if he becomes like a real go-to guy for them off the bench, man, that says a lot about Chicago ballers. And because he was moving along well, coming out of the city, coming out of Simeon, and he went to Iowa State, and it was like, okay, he gave his year there, and he's like, okay, he's ready to go. But the initial transition into the league seemed to have been a little rocky, but he found his footing with the Lakers by last year, and now he's really looking at. LeBron is looking like the proud dad now, saying like, "Oh, I knew him when he was 14. I saw him on TV." Try to, how LeBron got to pump himself up, but but Taylor's definitely in good hands with that team, and with LeBron and with another Chicago guy and Anthony Davis. Before we move on outside the Lakers and the rest of the West, though, I want to throw this out. Do y'all foresee any more, not necessarily difficulties, but just adjustments or changes within the AD LeBron dynamic? Because I think a lot of people, we can foresee that eventually the team is going to become AD's team. It might not happen necessarily this year, but it kind of has to happen at some point, especially now that AD is in for the long run with the Lakers. But do y'all foresee any sort of changes in the relationship or in the dynamic between them as leaders? Whereas like maybe AD is more, he's more likely to take last shots in the coming games, or he's more likely to be the go-to guy in clutch situations, or could he be, by far the more productive player over the course of the season? What do y'all think about that?
I think to a certain extent we've seen some of that. I don't have the numbers in front of me to back it up, but we've seen him take the last second shots because he is a better free throw shooter than LeBron. I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility of things that need to happen moving forward. I think LeBron's free throw percentage has gotten worse over the last 2, 3, 4 years. I think if I'm not mistaken.
He's gotten older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But because LeBron is so good at facilitating, such a big point guard. Excuse my cat. such a big point guard.
Got to jump on you there,
man. Gotta watch out for this cat, man. I don't know if y'all heard something fall earlier. That was him. This dude. But because he is such a good facilitator, I think that it's going to be more of a natural kind of passing of the torch, so to speak. We've seen LeBron lead the league in assists. And I want to say he, maybe not in as many words, but kind of let it be known that, hey, this is kind of AD's team, at least in terms of we need to make sure we get him going first before anybody else. So I think it'll come. I think you might see a little bit more of it this year, but nothing too drastic until maybe the following year, depending on how LeBron's body continues to hold up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Drew. I think at the end of the day, though, this is why LeBron brought AD to LA, to groom him while he's in his final years. Like Drew mentioned, we saw him take over in big moments and hit big shots in the bubble. But I think Anthony Davis still has extra, small, a little bit more small leaps to get to before he becomes the ultimate man in LA. And part of it is his second half play. There's plenty of times where, especially in the playoffs, he'll do great in the first 3 quarters and then go MIA in the fourth quarter. It's like, all right, LeBron, take it. I think LeBron is, slowly trying to grow out of that. And saying, no, AD, you're the guy. You have to close out this game. And once AD gets that really under his belt, I think that's when, we can officially say, okay, AD has arrived as the forefront guy for this team. LeBron is LeBron, so everything has to work around him. But like Drew mentioned, he transitioned his game to more of a skill set and facilitating and being more of a point guard role instead of being the scoring LeBron that we know he can be. And even though he's going to put up his points regardless, he's going to make the game a lot easier and continue to make the game a lot easier for guys like Anthony Davis until when it's time for LeBron to move on. AD is going to be ready to snatch that crown. And the way that he's treating AD is a similar way where pretty much D Wade did with LeBron, as well as LeBron was trying to do with Kyrie before Kyrie left. And I think because of their relationship and rapport that they have, it makes those type of lessons being that much more smoother when it comes to passing down the torch. I think LeBron's been actually trying to do this for a long time. It's just that the one guy he wanted to pass it down to, he just didn't want to take it. At least not in Cleveland.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. So because of that, and he finally has someone that actually wants to be with him, wants to play in LA. And of course, it's another Chicago dude because he understands what he went through with D Wade. He's like, if I got this young brother with me and this Chicago kid, he can take over for real. So he's learning. He's learning to mess with the Chicago kids, man. He's learning to continue to mess with the Chicago kids to continue his legacy. He knows what's up.
He knows. He always wanted to be. He wanted to be one of us because he rooted for Mike and them back in the 90s. But he had them big city dreams in Akron. He wasn't dreaming about Cleveland. He was dreaming about Chicago. That's what I think. He ain't gonna admit it, but But anyway, it's interesting though. Y'all say, I think y'all both kind of said. I know Drew, you said it, that it's 1-2 the LA teams, but Denver. You still got Denver out there. You got are we forgetting about them? What's changed with them? And Cason got them getting Harden. They might get Harden and really go in.
If they get Harden, I'm definitely taking them out the picture because I don't see how Harden mixes with Jokic, mixes with Lamar. That seemed like an even worse combination than him and KD and Irving. Somehow it seems worse. I don't know, but I will say this: Portland is somebody that might creep up there.
Yeah,
they have
for the whole year that team together.
Yeah, man. They are so deep. They've got some bodies that they can at least throw at AD. But man, it's just tough, man. When you got LeBron and AD, man, your opponent just has to be A+ so many nights, man. A series, so many things got to go right.
Let's look at the West. Let's look at the West, sort of like how Josh approached the East, and where you had teams sort of making leaps up and stuff. Because again, that's so much of the bubble games was about that, where we was looking at Memphis and New Orleans and there's a couple, even like a Sacramento in some ways, but there's a couple other teams too. I'm trying to think. Dallas is a team you can look at that was rising up, and they're going to be playing the Christmas game against LeBron. So when you look at what the league wants, they're already sort of trying to position Luka against LeBron and AD as a potential rival, But you also have the Suns, picking up CP3 and adding that veteran presence to that, that very talented young team. And the Suns was the only team that didn't lose in the bubble. Unfortunately, they get a chance to lose in the end, but they won those first 8 or 9 games that they needed to win to, and they was impressive. What do we make of these sort of rising teams in the West? Before we wrap up,
I think it's unfair. It's too much talent. I mean, it's just too much talent. You talking about last year? If you didn't have a play-in tournament, your AC was going to be the Memphis Grizzlies, and that's with your Rookie of the Year guy and Ja Morant. Right behind them was literally the Pelicans and the Suns. So you're talking about that's just your bottom 3 as far as top tier. If you put them in the East, are probably even in the top 8. They probably make the playoffs. So it's like the talent level in the bottom half is so competitive that even when you compare it to the East, it's unfair advantages. And the crazy part about the offseason with those three teams specifically, they all still made crazy moves. I mean, the Pelicans are going in the right direction by not just, getting a great return for, within the Drew Holiday trade. You got a new head coach in Stan Van Gundy, who is, who I wish he stayed on TV. But at the end of the day, he's a good, respected coach that I believe will put Zion in the best position to perform. And the fact that Zion is healthy now, with no minutes restrictions, he's going. If he can stay healthy throughout the season, you're looking at a good 26 and 10 average every night. When you're talking about John Moran and the Memphis Grizzlies, that young Memphis core is going to continue to grow. Him and Jaren Jackson are going to, continue to make waves. And if John Moran takes that next step, that's going to be scary to deal with on a nightly basis. You got Portland, who barely made it into the bubble last year, but like Drew mentioned, but they beefed up tremendously, adding the depth that they did between Harry Giles and Drew Jones and bringing back Carmelo Anthony. They beefed up their bench and their team so that way for them to be a playoff team. And
brought Covington in.
Yeah, they brought Robert Covington in. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be surprised if they actually make a move for Harden, because there's talks about them trying to break up that backcourt from the first place. You maybe trade CJ McCollum for James Harden. Now that's going to be even that much more interesting. I'm not saying they're going to do that or anything.
James Harden and I'm saying, can you imagine James Harden and
D-Lil?
My man in the same backcourt, D-Lil, man. They gonna be each shooting from 70 feet out, like trying to see who makes the most.
Yeah, they will. But it's just the fact that the disparity from talent wise, from even the bottom half of the Western Conference compared to the Eastern Conference, is so dramatic. It's too far apart to where. I don't care who plays in the Western Conference. I mean, I'm going to watch every game probably in the West more than I'm watching the East, just because the talent level and the excitement from each team is still there. And you guys talked about Denver, potentially going after Harden. I don't even know if they should, just because Michael Porter Jr. in that system, that if he continues to emerge, and the big key about Denver making it to that next level is going to be Jamal Murray. He has to be an all-star this year. He has to reach that next level consistently for the Nuggets to go back to the Western Conference Finals. And he's shown in the bubble he has the capability of doing that. But will that sustain all throughout the season leading up into the postseason? That's not it's not a guarantee yet. We got to wait and see what happens with that. But if he continues to improve, Michael Porter Jr. continues to improve, Jokic continues to be the Joker that we know, and also if Bol really does emerge into a good intricate role in that front court as well. Now you're looking at that thing being pretty scary. If he could fill in for that Jeremy Grant role that they basically looked out on in the offseason. So it's a lot of teams to look out for, but the West for sure is way more competent when you talk about talent and competitiveness compared to the Eastern Conference, especially in that bottom half.
Yeah, it's striking, like when you really think about it, like because when we was talking about the East a little while ago, I was like, yeah, the East coming up a little bit, but now that we talking about the West, it's like, damn, the West is pretty tough, man. But I never would have said anyway that the East was like overtaking the West in any way. But it's just when you break down each team, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of talent on these individual teams. It's pretty crazy, man. It's gonna be fun to see how these teams play against each other.
Yeah, it's just a testament to how good the West is, and then it just goes to show you, when Harden first came out with his list of teams, everybody was in the East. Like, it's just crazy. Now KD is in the East. It's just like, man.
Right. They took, like, KD left the West for the East, and you still prefer the West over the East. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man.
But to Josh's point about,
I know. Go ahead, Drew.
No, I was gonna say to Josh's point earlier, man. The Hawks needs. I'm surprised people are pubbing the Hawks more. You know, I think Josh said it too earlier. I would agree with him that I think their ceiling is probably about the 6th seed, but they should not be. They should not be playing tournament. They should not be a play-in tournament team. They should be much higher than that.
Oh no.
My only thing with Atlanta is that
you got to be in the 6, right? You got to be the top 6 because it's 7, 8, 9, and 10 to play in. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Will they be? I would put them in that 6 or 7 range. Yeah. You know, will they make it without playing in? Or, you know, it'll be interesting to see if
absolutely
they make it that high.
To see how their acquisitions line up, because right now their best players can't play on the court at the same time because they've got like guys that can play D but can't really score and vice versa. So they really got to figure that thing out and see who can play what spots and what situations.
Who are y'all? Who like if y'all had the league pass, who would be the team that you would check out first every night?
Ooh.
Every night? I mean, every night. Oh, it's on. They on TV right now. That's a given. They on TV right now. I'm watching it on TNT. Oh yeah, Brooklyn, baby.
I said even when they're not on nationally, you gonna be checking for Brooklyn every night.
It's KD and Kyrie. That's the most entertaining duo you could think of from a night in and night in basis. I mean, Kyrie talking about, you know, how him as an athlete is like art. They're like art. Well, I'm watching artistry every night between Kyrie Irving and KD consistently. And I know it's a long shot, but don't tell me James Harden goes there. If he goes there, that's for sure the number 1 team. You can forget it now. Like that's automatic gift. That's automatic bid. But aside from that, I mean, aside from that, you have to put both LA teams up top. I mean, because both teams are so uniquely dynamic, especially from a superstar perspective. After that, hit or miss.
I say the thing about league pass is you're talking about teams that aren't necessarily going to be on national TV all the time. I'm saying like the your sort of side team. I'm sort of thinking about like a team.
My bad. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna go through that, probably Pelicans, Memphis, Portland. You notice I didn't say no East teams. The only East team I might say, aside from obviously Chicago, is probably Atlanta. But aside from that, I'm good. Show me the West Coast. I'll stay up late. Show me the West Coast. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I gotta when you put that kind of criteria on it, I gotta agree. I gotta agree with Josh, man. It's pretty much the same. Because I was about to fix my mouth to say Miami, but Miami.
You talk about the potential of high drama. Yeah, Miami gonna be on TV.
Yeah.
I say don't sleep on Washington and Charlotte for the potential for a little drama. I'm gonna be looking at them to see what they provide. And like I said, I just want to see.
Ball plays MJ. That's when I watch. You gotta let me know when LeVar Ball plays MJ. That's when I watch.
I want to see the first time that LaMelo does a behind the back pass that goes in the third row, and I want to see the shot go right on Mike. And see if he's looking at LeVar like get your boy LeVar before I get him.
Oh gosh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
that'd be hilarious. LeVar Pump says, "You want to know why that ball went behind in the bleachers? It's because my other 2 sons weren't on the team. Go get them."
Is there any chance? Right. Is there any chance Mike is already kicking himself in the butt for giving Gordon that money, and this dude has already hurt himself?
No.
Oh, man.
Nah. Ain't nobody gonna willingly come to Charlotte. So,
but man, You gave that amount of money to Gordon Hayward? Man.
MJ made that back with his new golf course.
Yeah, he probably was a bet on the golf course that he lost.
Good point.
He probably would have traded for Westbrook if he won the bet, but he lost it, so he traded for Gordon.
I like Gordon Hayward, man. He's been snake bit, but man, that might have been the Eddie Robinson deal that the Bulls signed my man to. I think he came from Charlotte, didn't he? Eddie Robinson. Josh, you might be too young, man.
I remember Eddie. I just don't remember before that. I was there when he's here, but it's a little bit far.
I think you're right, Drew. I think you're right. Yeah.
Some bad decisions.
That's the difference, man. When you run, like it's so obvious in the NBA because I think with with fewer players on the roster, you got less room for mistakes. So when you make the mistakes like that, man, they here in Chicago for so many years, man. We take gambles on guys and they mess up. So, hopefully we're getting it together where there's something, there's something like a nucleus of talent that's forming that could be relied on and that could be built upon to go forward. So we'll see starting tomorrow with the against Atlanta. So if they're able to compete with Atlanta, maybe that'll be a good sign of things initially. But we're gonna keep riding though. Yeah, I got. Let me throw out another thing. Since Josh, I know you're doing the you're doing a Christmas across for the Christmas games. Like what game are y'all looking forward to most for on Christmas this week? They got the day starting off with the Pelicans and Heat. Then you got the Warriors and Bucks, the Nets and Celtics, Mavericks and Lakers going into prime time, and Clippers and Nuggets rounding out the day. Like, which one of those games excites y'all the most?
Can I just say they got the matchups wrong? And the teams is cool, but man, what's up with these matchups though? Like,
I kind of feel you on that, Drew. Yeah, like they should rearrange them. Like, what would your fight be these teams? Drew?
I'm trying to get it all in one thing so I can see it. I would have probably went Nets and Lakers. Would have been like my highlight game. I probably would have gone Miami and Milwaukee.
Okay.
Maybe go back Denver and Clippers. Boston, Philly. New Orleans and Dallas.
You would have put Philly in there.
I would have threw Philly in there with Boston just to kind of get some straight East Coast
that rivalry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that rivalry. Yeah. See, they usually historically the Knicks have been a Christmas team, but don't nobody want to see the Knicks on Christmas no more.
They don't want to see Obi?
That just make not on Christmas, man. That just make people mad now when you see the Knicks on Christmas.
It might be worse if you got to hear Thibodeau give an interview on Christmas too.
Yeah, that scratchy throat.
Like, I mean, we got to listen to anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. The game I would look forward to the most, for me, actually, it would be the Nets versus Celtics. I would want to see.
I feel you on that.
Yeah,
especially after tonight. After tonight.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to see how Jason Tatum emerges as the number one guy now. He's the official solidified guy for this team. Just signed that longest term extension. You know, he's going to be the number one guy that's going to go up against a healthy Kevin Durant. And the fact that, you know, you already got the Kyrie Boston history there. I'm like, is it going to be in Brooklyn or is it going to be in Boston? Is it in Boston?
I believe it's going to be in Boston. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I can see him walking down the court now.
May bring some peppermint sage.
Yep. That's exactly where I was going. He's gonna sage that thing, make sure the court is all good.
Holiday
and yep. And next, I'm just excited to see what that matchup is truly going to look like. I mean, you talking about Kevin Durant against Jason Tatum.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a nice little matchup, you know, to see, especially offensively, to see how Jason Tatum holds up his end of the deal. So I think that'll bring a lot of excitement. We want compared to all the other games, we know Luka's gonna do his thing against the Lakers. You know, seeing that LeBron Luka matchup would be nice. The revenge of the Clippers against the Nuggets, that would be nice because the Clippers need a revenge game badly for the way they fell out that series. And all the other games are gonna be, you know, fun and entertainment because of the big names, but the fact that the Nets and the Celtics on both ends of both sides have history against each other in a sense that's more personal, especially in the fact that KD is now back in the picture with Kyrie against that duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and seeing whoever Marcus Smart tries to be floppy on the court with. I think that's going to be exciting to watch. So that's going to be the game that I'm going to pay attention to the most for sure.
It stands a chance to be a real statement game because, like I said, you look at the way the Nets are playing tonight and the fact that they stand the chance to be a complete disruptor in the East. Like every time they face one of these other contenders in the East going forward, now it's probably gonna be a real squaring up that's gonna be done because, you know, if you a team like the Celtics, who you've already been in the mix for a couple years and you trying to break through, like, you know, same being said for Milwaukee, same being said for Philly, you got a team like Toronto who's had the chip, but they trying to reestablish themselves, and you got Miami who came so close last year. Like all these teams probably feel like they got some sort of claim to East, but then, you know, now you got KD and Kyrie stomping big, like Snoop in the New York video. You know, they ready to knock down everybody's buildings. You know, so that's really what the storyline probably is going to be about in the East. You know, like, you know, how much of a nuclear bomb is Brooklyn, and are they going to really tear through? You know, are they really going to just go Super Saiyan and tear through the whole conference, or, you know, or is somebody going to be able to step up and really you know, knock blows with them? You know, we that's probably going to be the real storyline in the East, I think.
I hope they come up with a better fight because the way this game looking like right now, oh God,
Golden State ain't got nothing for them, man.
Ain't got no chance.
Yeah. It was like I see what the league was doing. They was trying to show like, oh, well, Golden State, you know, let's welcome back Golden State. But I don't think Golden State got much to say right now, man. You know, it's gonna be hard to see them even get back in the playoffs in the West, man. We just went over how charged up the West is. Like, you know, what are they gonna do against a lot of these younger teams, these younger deep teams that they got, you know, out there in the West, you know.
Yeah, Golden State ain't. It's 1, 2, 3 Cancun for them, man. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have been if Clay was healthy, but it's no plan for them. They just.
yeah, it's gonna be rough for the Warriors. And I think, you know, this was a good reunion game. You know, you got Steve Nash coming back to his old, you know, coming back to say what's up to Golden State. KD coming back to say what's up to Golden State. And then they said, welcome to my city. Congratulations on this ass whooping. That's what they just did to this game right now. And it's like, dang, you know, this is what we got to look for.
They showing the difference between going to Brooklyn and going to Manhattan. Like Golden Golden State probably could have got a W in Manhattan, but in Brooklyn, they ain't got nothing fun.
But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the Nets play one of these top tier Eastern Conference teams that are going to provide more, in theory, more resistance than the Warriors have tonight. Like I said, like the Milwaukee's of the world, Miami's, Boston's. Because you spoke about Tatum guarding Durant, they can also throw Jaylen Brown on him. You know, Marcus Smart is little, but he'll fight with him he can fight with him for a few possessions. And nobody's gonna stop KD, but it's just all about trying to slow him down.
I want to see Marcus against Kyrie. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
Real quick.
But yeah. But yeah, they wrapping up the third there, man. Brooklyn almost up 30. Almost got a 30 piece on Golden State 98-69. So that game pretty much wrapped up. But the Battle of LA coming up, I'm gonna let you brothers go. Watch that on your own recognizances. But yeah, we gonna be back at it, man. Back at it, man. Running with WARR, going into 21, man. We're gonna try to get back to, doing, maybe I hope maybe weekly, maybe semi-weekly. Try to do at least a couple shows a month, and giving our thoughts on what's going on in the league. Get some more guests in, and build with some more people, across the landscape and the basketball media and whatever. And just have some fun, man. This, basketball is here for us. Like I said at the top of the show, sort of the last remnants of regularness and of fun that we had before everything shut down back when we was hosting the All-Star game in Chicago and everything was centered around us, and we didn't know it at the time. We was all making each other sick as hell, but we didn't really we didn't really worry about those things, and now we're at the the end of the year, and Drew, I guess you didn't say it on air, but Drew is has been infected with the COVID, and we wish you the best, man, and wish you the best, and hope you get through it okay, and enjoy your holidays best you can. I know you're gonna be a little separated from the fam and everything. We all are in a lot of ways, so you just got to get through this as best we can. It's good that the NBA is here to distract us a little bit. We don't want to be too distracted, but we got something that we can indulge ourselves in that we love and appreciate, that make things a little bit more fun on the day to day, Absolutely. And just like I said, next time you see us all together, it'll be 2021. Let's get this bullshit year behind us, and take our lessons that we've learned from it, and let's all do better. This is another thing I probably want to bring up in the future too. Like, I saw a piece in the Athletic about a lot of the things that are coming from this era that are going to really stick with us going forward, like temperature checks in arenas and clean all these different types of cleaning techniques and stuff that we're entering a new age, man, in a lot of ways, especially with sports, but in society in general. So, that's just something we got to keep in mind, man, and just do the best we can to take care of ourselves and take care of all of those around us, and take care of those who have a harder time taking care of themselves. We gotta reach out for those who have already been been infected, and the elderly and everything, and those who put themselves on the front line. Again, a person like Drew, who works in healthcare, man, definitely honor all those who are working the essential jobs and doing the things that we need to do to make our society keep going and keep strong in the face of all this. So we honor y'all, and we just do what we can to help entertain and inform with these shows. So, we just gonna end it out on that note. Like I say, peace and blessings to everyone. Enjoy your holidays and enjoy the games on Christmas. And we'll be back soon though. We're gonna keep running and keep bouncing as we always do. Anything else y'all gotta say?
No, you said it, man. You said it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's get this new year coming, man. Peace and blessings.
Yeah, most definitely.
No doubt.
Happy holidays to you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Looking forward to 2021. Keep following, what we do on WARR Media. Drew the maestro is still doing this thing with his writing, his column writing and everything.
Drew got the Chicago Sports Exchange every Monday. Yeah, Josh, you got In the Scope every Friday with the podcast. Yeah, we ain't going nowhere, man. We gonna keep it moving. Yeah, we gonna keep it moving and to 2021 and beyond for sure.
Oh yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah, all the tags down there below, y'all can see where to follow us. Keep following us if you like what we do. Share it. Recommend us to all your friends who like to talk about sports and all that. You saw earlier a real one like Jonathan Hood is watching us. So you ain't got no excuse. If Jonathan Hood could watch us, you could watch us too. So don't front like you got something better to do with your time. It's still all in the crib for the time being. Throw us some views, throw us some subscriptions. You know what I mean? Get our numbers up.
Put us on the rotation, man. Come on.
For sure. But yeah, appreciate you, brothers, man. And like I said, I wish you the best. And we're gonna sign off. That's gonna sign off. That's it. That's it. We out. Once again, this is Running with WARR. WeAreRegalRadio.com, WARR Media. Keep bouncing, y'all.